I got a text off this. I didn't have this number saved at this point. To which I replied, "Thank you very much. Who's this?" To which I got back a message just signed in Marcelo Bielsa. Funny, to be fair, when I first met Harry, and he basically told me that I was lying about my age. You don't look 19. You could probably give Mingsy a go. We used to tell him we'll put a tube of Smarties on each post so he'd dive more.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Panenka podcast. We have something new for you today. I'm joined here by Tom Horner on your screen, the Leeds shirt. But our first special guest, footballer edition, it's Ryan Edmondson. Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me all right? Everything all right now?
Yeah.
We've had a few audio issues.
Yes, we've had. But the plan is for today, we are just going to have some sort of casual questions with Ryan, ask him about his career so far, what he wants to get to in the future, and so on, and we'll just see where it takes us. So I will start. Question one. This is quite a sort of big one for me that I wanted to ask. Who is the most famous person in your phone book?
Oh, most famous person in my phone book.
Yeah.
Well, at the minute you could have Bielsa down there. He's in there.
Yeah, that's...
He's getting himself around the world a bit at the minute, isn't he? Kiko Casilla, he's in there.
Mad. Ex-Real Madrid man himself.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Paul Simpson, an assistant manager at England. Who else have we got in there? Basically, all the kind of old Leeds players. We've got Rufy, Calvin.
Okay.
Basically, all the Leeds squad.
How did it come about you getting Bielsa's number? Was that like a casual sort of thing on the side, or is it like part of you sort of joining Leeds where you sort of had to have his?
Well, I think everyone's kind of got his number anyway. Then I didn't even realise that I had it, to be honest. And then the first way it came about was that when I was in hospital having my operation done on my knee, I got a text off this. I didn't have this number saved at this point. Basically just saying good luck with your operation. Hope everything's all right. Can't wait for you to get back into training and get back into the training ground. Best wishes for kind of everything and hope the op goes okay. To which I replied, "Thank you very much. Who's this?" To which I got back a message just signed in Marcelo Bielsa, which I felt like an absolute idiot after that. The fact that I'm just questioning the gaffer, "Who's this?" at the end of the text message. So yeah, that was probably the most random I've had. It was just kind of a bit out of nowhere, and then obviously from then on, if you ever need to get in contact with a gaffer, he's there now.
After that, we'll shoot Tom afterwards, but this question's quite similar. Who's the most famous person you've ever met? And obviously, keep this football related. Who's the biggest footballer or footballing name that you've ever come to face with, or been in the same room as, spoken to?
There's a number. I mean, when I went on camp with England, was at St George's with England, and we were in the gym with all the first team lads at that point. So I mean, was in the gym. I was speaking to Harry Kane, Sterling, Phil Foden, Sancho, Gareth Southgate, speaking to the gaffer.
Yeah, okay, that'll do it.
So there's a fair few big names around there.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a fair few on the list. It was actually quite funny, to be fair. When I first met Harry, we were in the gym and we were doing some kind of just upper body strength work, and he came over, and this was my first camp, and he was saying, "Are you new around here? I haven't seen you around here before." And I was like, "Yeah, it's my first camp with the under-19s." And he basically told me that I was lying about my age.
Oh,
He said, "You don't look 19. You could probably give Mingsley a go," because Tyrone Mings was stood there at the time, and I was kind of similar size to Tyrone Mings. So yeah, it was quite a funny one. But no, a lot of the England lads that are very kind of sound, down to earth people, so you get quite a lot of conversation out of them.
okay, yeah, brilliant. Tom, do you want to take it over your side for the next question?
Yeah. So you made your first team debut against Brackley for York, becoming the third youngest player in the club's history. How did it come about moving to York?
So I've been kind of in and out of academies my whole life. Harvey would probably know that I've been kind of everywhere, in and out of even like panel sports for like Sunday league clubs. So I first went to York when I was around, I'd say about 12-ish. And I was there on trial, and my first trial there, they released me after it. I was there for 6 weeks, and then they released me, and I went back to Sunday league football, back to panel sports, things like that, and then kind of had a lot of opportunities elsewhere. So I went to a fair few academies. The latest before my second trip at York was who was I with? Bradford City. I went to Bradford City after I was at Huddersfield. I was with Bradford City for 9 months, something like that, and then they released me. And then I think it was maybe 2 or 3 days after Bradford City released me, I was back at York City, training with them when I was about 14-ish. To which I got offered a contract at York City, and then kind of just playing in around my under 16 age groups when I was about 14, 15. And then when I'd just turned 15, I began playing for their under 18s and kind of under 23s teams, which I was scoring a lot, playing well, kind of developing and kind of still learning the game at that age and stuff like that. And the manager at the time was Martin Gray, and he had me training with the first team practically every day when I was about 15 years old. So it was quite scary for a kid like me, because there's a lot of big characters in that changing room. John Parkin being one of them. He was a big character in that changing room. And then just kind of been in and around the first team squad at York was good for training, stuff like that. And then out of nowhere, just once the gaffer spoke to me, basically said, "You're in the squad for Saturday," which I was like, all right then. And then obviously came on against Brackley, and I think it was John Parkin that day actually scored a banging free kick in about the 89th minute or something like that. We won 2-1. So yeah, it was a good time at York, very good time at York.
Good stuff. I'll swing it right back down to the other end. Where do you think Leeds will finish next season in the Premier League? And you've got to be as brutally honest as you can, and where you think they'll finish and why they will finish there.
I think we'll finish definitely top 15. Definitely. I don't think we need to worry about relegation next year. If I was to estimate, I'd say maybe 12th or 13th. Obviously, I'm not going to be too optimistic because, the Premier League's the best league in the world. And it's not an easy league to go into. But I think with the unique way that we play, as we've shown in the Championship this season, no one can deal with it. It's very rare that teams can kind of put up with the persistence and the kind of the speed that we play at. Similar to Sheffield United, really, this season. Sheffield United have gone in with their own unique style into the Premier League, and obviously Premier League teams aren't used to it, so a lot of teams have struggled, which I think, we can adopt that to our game and take it into the Premier League and kind of hopefully turn teams over with it.
Do you think at some point in your career, possibly near, there is like talks of a loan move somewhere? Obviously, you had your years ago now, the end of the 17-18 season.
Yeah, well, so regarding loan moves and things like that, obviously it would be unbelievable to be able to play in the Premier League with Leeds. Kind of always been a dream of mine. Even getting promoted into the Premier League with Leeds is achievement enough, and having actually played for the team is unbelievable. But I think, I'm 19 years old now. You say 19 years old and everyone still thinks you're a little baby in the game, but you see younger players coming through every day, and you see the likes of, say, Mason Greenwood at 18 years old, Louis Sibley at Derby. You've got a lot of young lads pushing through now. So it's kind of a key focal point in my career. And I'm happy to accept a loan move, kind of get some minutes and experience under my belt, even though I've played a fair few games for like York City and things like that, and a couple of championship games for Leeds. I think kind of regular minutes on a pitch would be unbelievable. And I think for a 19-year-old, with the way Leeds are playing at the minute, it's hard to ask for. And I think there's a fair few players in a similar situation. You can't just get promoted into the Premier League with Leeds United and demand minutes. So yeah, of course, a loan move is on the table. Where? Don't know. Could take me anywhere. But that's football, and I guess you've got to kind of just live up to that and see where things can take you.
Could you see yourself going abroad for a loan move?
Abroad, I'm not really sure. So obviously, we've got kind of a club history of, well, especially lately, a lot of our kind of under 23s and things like that have gone on loan to kind of Spanish clubs and things like that. But I think if you're going to go on loan from Leeds United, you want somewhere that's kind of similar standard and a similar playing style. You got a lot of lads that go over to Spain and things like that and play the Spanish way of football, and then you come back to Leeds United and it's a completely different ball game in kind of the English football leagues. So I mean, if the opportunity was there to go away and kind of get some first team minutes at a high kind of division or level of football, of course, but ideally I'd rather stay in and around the country and kind of stick to that English style of football.
What's it like working under Bielsa with his high demands and the infamous murderball sessions?
Oh God! I knew murderball. Honestly, you get a bit of a twitch every time you hear that name. Yeah, I mean it's completely different to what everyone's used to. Obviously, fans can see the change in the fitness levels and things like that, and the way we play. When people call it Bielsa ball, it literally is Bielsa ball, because he gets you to play the exact way that he wants the ball to be moved. And I think the key to our kind of success in the league is that repetition of everything we do. Whenever we do certain sessions, we repeat it every day. You do, even like cutting down to simple little 1-2 drills around like static mannequins. We do them every single day, and it does pay off. And we sit there and we say to him and the coaching staff all the time, we do these round mannequins, but like our opponents move. Like, can we not do something a bit different? But yeah. He literally just says to us, if you pass the ball at the perfect time and at the perfect speed with the perfect run, it doesn't matter if they're chasing you down or static, you'll always kind of beat that player. Which is, I think, a message that's been drilled into us, really. And it's quite obvious that it does work against real life opponents, because we've gone and turned teams over like we've never seen Leeds play. And yeah, murderball, it's completely different to anything I've ever experienced. Again, I've been around at a lot of clubs and I've seen a lot of different coaching styles and a lot of different kind of management roles and stuff like that. But when he brought murderball in, well, he calls it football, but I think everyone else within the club can definitely define it as murderball, because it literally does. After the session, you are off your feet. You can't stand anymore.
Those who don't know, could you run it through briefly what you would say murderball is?
So murderball is basically an 11v11 game. So we'll mix the teams up. Sometimes it'll practically be the 23 side against the first team side, or sometimes it'll be the first team side against like the bench and some of the stronger 23s. And it's usually set out in like, say, 5-minute blocks. So you do a 5-minute block and you have about 2 minutes rest or something. But that 5-minute block is the most intense 5 minutes of your life. And there are no breaks within that 5 minutes. He's got staff stood around the edge of the pitch, all with a football in hand. So if the ball goes out, they just throw you another one back in. So you just keep going. There's literally no time for a breather. And a lot of the time you're 1v1 with one player. And he says that's your marker. And if he beats you, like, that's it, you're done. So it literally is just like an 11v11 brawl on a football pitch. And yeah, it's the most kind of intense football. If you can think of a 90-minute game squashed down into 5 minutes, that's what it is, literally. We've covered, I'd say, in that 25 minutes of playing murderball, we probably cover more ground than a 90-minute game. Sometimes it's absolutely ridiculous. We find players doing like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7K within that whole 25 minutes, which is absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, that is literally murderball.
I think on the similar sort of topic, obviously with lockdown happening and whatnot, football coming to a stop temporarily, how have you managed to keep yourself fit? What have you been doing for fitness? Obviously, you've been away from the training ground for some months. Have you managed to keep yourself in shape?
Yeah, so obviously you can't slack off whenever you're not in the training ground, because the gaffer will know. Because when you go back, it's very kind of extreme conditioning, like extreme conditioning after a break. So say after COVID, when we went back in for the first time training, we'd sit there and do our normal training sessions for, like, say, an hour and a half. And then after the session, everyone knows about the kind of infamous 1 kilometre running track that he's got around the facility that he made himself. Yeah, he basically gets us after the session. So when we're already blowing, he says to us all, basically, individually, you got to run around the running track once, and you got to see how quick you can do it. And so you've got to run around a kilometre running track as quickly as you can after a football session. And I mean, we still had Robbie Gotts, for example. He was doing it in like 2 minutes 48 seconds. It was just absolutely ridiculous. And then you've got times after where he did a 12-minute run after a game. So we did a game of murderball, and then after that session, we did a 12-minute run, and you had to see how many times you could run around the running track within 12 minutes. So when it's kind of your break, you're not having a break because you need to be training every single day at some point just to kind of match his standards. I think it was difficult for a lot of the boys because obviously during the whole COVID situation, there were no gyms or anything. So we was just kind of having to do everything back at home. But we was doing like Zoom calls, for example, in the morning to do like circuit sessions and stuff like that. So we were doing like bodyweight circuit sessions over Zoom with like the whole squad. We'd be doing, he got everyone to download this app on their phone where basically when you're running, it's like a live monitoring app. So they can monitor how fast you're running, for how long, when you're taking a break, if you pause your session, for example, to see if any lads are cheating. So yeah, you had to be very true and very honest with yourself during the whole kind of off-season training. But luckily for me, I had a lot of kind of one-to-one training and stuff like that to get myself back fit. after my sessions with my knee. So I got back fit pretty quickly. And then during COVID and stuff like that, I was having kind of like, there was my personal trainer on a FaceTime call whilst I was at a field with all this equipment they'd sent me, basically shouting at me through FaceTime to do all this stuff.
All right.
So no, it was very kind of unusual for everyone at the time, but it was good to kind of get that early preparation in, and because if we didn't do it, we won't be champions.
Yeah. What's Marcelo's English like? Because he doesn't talk to the media, but what's it like? Does he talk to you a lot in training?
Oh no, literally exactly what you get at the media is what we get at the training ground. Yeah, his English isn't great. At the player awards evening, he did try once. He kind of had a handwritten letter, and he could hardly even manage that. It was down on paper in front of him, and he was still struggling. Bless him. But no, I think we've kind of all adjusted to that kind of lifestyle now, where everything does come through translators and stuff like that. So we're all very used to it. It's kind of the norm for us all now. So yeah, I think we've kind of got past that language barrier now. To be fair, even some of the lads have been learning some Spanish to try to speak to him. Apart from everyone seems to just know swear words around the training ground, because that's all he seems to do. But no, yeah, it's good that we've kind of got that diversity within the club, but it can be a nightmare sometimes.
I want to walk you through your debut, your Leeds debut.
Oh. Wow. So
step by step.
The Leeds debut was with Paul Heckingbottom. I think I was 16 years old, just coming up 17. So it was kind of a big thing. To be fair, I'd only moved to Leeds in November of 2017. So I moved from York City to Leeds November 9th, 2017. And then made my debut on the 6th of May, 2018. So it was a very kind of quick progression for me while at Leeds. I mean, going from a Conference North team to playing in the Championship within 7 months was a big step. So the week before my debut, so obviously I'd been training with the first team kind of day in, day out for a while. And the week before, he took me to Norwich away, but I was the 19th man, so I wasn't in the squad at this point. To which after he kind of, after the Norwich game, he spoke to me and he said, I just wanted to kind of get you the feel for a professional game so you can see what happens, what everything's like. And I was just a bit kind of confused, like, all right, fair enough. Like, didn't think much of it. Went back into training and stuff. And then the Thursday before the game on the Saturday, he pulled me into the office and he was said, kind of like, how would you like to make your debut the last game of the season? So I didn't even know what I replied. Honestly, I don't actually know. I think I kind of zoned out at this point. To even hear the words of a Leeds United debut was just an absolute shock. And then obviously the Saturday came and I was on the bench, and he sent me out to warm up, and I was running up and down the sidelines, just trying to be busy, I think, just as a 16-year-old lad, even being able to warm up in front of, I think there were 35,000 there that day, so the stadium was absolutely rammed. And I remember even where I looked up to where my season ticket used to be in the Kop, and everyone that I used to go with as a season ticket holder, all my mates were sat there. And I think there was about 4 or 5 of them. And I kind of looked at them, I was just like, I didn't really know what was happening. And then whilst I was warming up, Hecky kind of turned and shouted me back down. And from that moment on, everything just went kind of silent for me. I didn't really know what was happening. It was like, get yourself ready. So I'd strap my shin pads up, taped them all up. put all my socks and everything on, put my shirt on. But even like picking up my shirt from the floor and like seeing it, and then seeing myself stood on the sideline with my shirt on while Hecky's kind of stood next to me giving me a load of instructions, and I wasn't even really listening. I didn't know what was going on. And then to kind of stand there on the sideline, and I think I came on for Kemal Roof that day. I think that's when he came off. And to hear over the tannoy just announcing that it was like my championship debut for a 16-year-old. And then he shouted my name on as I ran onto the pitch, and just kind of heard everyone at Ellen Road kind of like scream and erupt. It was, very strange. I was just like, I think we had a corner at the time, so I just kind of ran into the box without even acknowledging anything. And then I got into the box, and it was let's see first, it was Ayling that was in the box, and he kind of just gave me a hug, and he was like, look, chill out, like, you got this. Which was kind of a big kind of nerve settler, that you have like experienced first team lads kind of putting their faith in you and stuff like that. And then it came to my first touch of the ball. So the ball got played down the right hand side, and it was Alioski playing on the wing at that time. And I'd made a run into the box. So I'd ran into the front post, and I'd pulled off back to like the penalty spot area. And Alioski had pulled it back, and I'd had a shot on goal, and the keeper tipped it onto the bar, and it went over for a corner. And I thought I was going to score with my first touch on my Leeds debut, to which kind of the crowd just ended up going mental, even though I only got a corner out of it. But no, and then after the game, to have the pitch parade, like going around the edge of the pitch to all the fans, and everyone asking for photos and signatures, and people asking for my shirt, and it was a very kind of, pardon?
You have your shirt still from your debut?
Oh, I've got about 7 or 8 shirts. I've got them all. Well, my dad does. He don't let me have them anymore. He's getting them all framed to put in a room. But I've got my York City shirt, my England shirts, all my Leeds shirts. I've got about 7 or 8, I think. But the whole experience of kind of having your debut at Ellen Road at 16 years old was just, something surreal.
You want to get books? Wow.
I did. I was known for having a bit of a temper on a pitch, kind of. And I do remember this. It was Hecky that had said to me, "Go make yourself remembered." And I was just thinking to myself, like, and their right back at the time had the ball, so I'd pressed him, and I thought it was a fair challenge myself, but I'd absolutely sent him into the East Stand, which Leeds fans absolutely loved. But I did get booked about 2 minutes into my Leeds United debut.
Oh, that'll do it.
What about your England days? So you scored in your debut against Greece, and obviously there's some big players like Saka, Gordon, Curtis Jones. Who stood out as the main future star at the time?
Well, obviously when I went to England, that was all surreal in itself. But when I turned up to the England camp and things like that, they all kind of, no matter what position they're in, they're all kind of the same. They're all treated the same. If you're there, you deserve to be there, kind of thing. And at the time, my squad was say like we had Bobby Duncan, Curtis Jones, Bukayo Saka, Anthony Gordon, Tommy Doyle, Taylor Howard-Bellis, Louis Sibley, Morgan Whittaker, Lee Buchanan, which all lads that have made either Championship or Premier League games. And obviously Bukayo and things like that have made kind of big impact in the Premier League and even on like a European stage. But I just remember like being there and in training and games and stuff, and like just seeing the way they were on the ball was just unbelievable. And I think Bukayo Saka is the quickest player I've ever come up against in my life. He's absolutely rapid. It's a joke. So yeah, I'd probably say out of the lot, it was Bukayo that kind of really stood out from the group. But he's such a down-to-earth guy as well. That was really good guy to get along with. He's not one of those players that knew he was good, so kind of looked down on other people. Yeah, he was a really kind of down-to-earth guy, and it was a great group of lads.
From your career, what would you say are your personal strengths and weaknesses as a player on the field?
I think obviously kind of my height and strength is kind of a big one for me. Being 19 years old and 85 kilograms and 6'4" is not really normal for many 19-year-old lads. But I think that's all come back from when I was a defender. Obviously, I used to be a centre half quite a lot of the time, which not many people know. But I was a centre half for a year. I've only been a striker for about 3 or 4 years now. So yeah, I was just a defender that could score. But I think I turned into love scoring, and that kind of seems to be a progression of a strength of mine. I just seem to score, which is a great kind of trait to have as a striker. I'm not the best player in the world, not at all, but I can score. So I think that's kind of really helped me out in situations. Even if I'm having a bad game, I'll just be goal hanging in the box somewhere waiting for something. So yeah, I'd definitely say kind of my strength, power, speed, and just kind of goal scoring really. But a lot of these things have kind of progressed since the gaffer came in. Obviously, like my speed and things like that nowadays is just kind of different to what it used to be. Because when I first went to the club, I was 93 kilograms. So I was a heavy boy when I first went. And then the gaffer came in and basically changed everything around. And now when I'm playing, I'm about 82. So I've lost a good 10, 11 kilos, which allows you to move a hell of a lot more. So yeah, I'd say they're definitely some of the main strengths in my game. Weaknesses, got absolutely no left peg. No left peg. Never have, never will. But yeah, I don't know. I think weakness is more of a mentality for me. I think it's a kind of setback from old comments that were made from different clubs and different players. When you hear off, say, a professional coach saying that you're not good enough to be a football player, it does hinder you quite a lot because, that's the only thing I've ever wanted to be. So I'd say my weaknesses are probably mentality and self-confidence and self-belief and stuff like that. But again, that's all kind of changed around since my debut for Leeds and things like that, because I've had a lot of people kind of change and say, you know what, you can do this. If you want to do it, you can do it. To which I've kind of just put my mind to and changed my whole kind of outlook on things.
I think quickly, sorry Tom to cut you off there, but on that note, actually, do you think social media has impacted your career so far? And if it has, then how? How it has?
Definitely. I think social media will impact kind of everything that goes on in the world, never mind just football itself, because social media is such a big basis for absolutely everything nowadays. But I mean, you could say that I've gone from being just kind of a lad from Knaresborough playing for Panel Sports to having, 20,000 followers on Instagram that go through your profile every day and people kind of commenting on things, tagging you in things. I've got message requests on my Instagram asking me for say signed shirts and boots and stuff near enough every day. So it is crazy because I kind of tried to still have that outlook of being that same just kid from Knaresborough that just likes to play football. And of course, it does have a big effect on you because everything goes on around social media. You see it, players get hindered and stuff from social media. If you're having a bad game or something, that all of a sudden there's 100,000 tweets saying basically you're crap and you're the worst player in the world. So yeah, there's been a fair few times that social media has impacted my life, but since kind of becoming a more higher profile player, I've tend to not kind of look at that stuff. But when I was back in my younger age, a couple of years ago, it was something I looked at a hell of a lot. And there was people saying, you know, he's not good enough to play for Leeds. He won't be able to play for us again. This and that. And it does, especially as like a 17-year-old, 18-year-old lad, it does affect you mentally quite a lot. Because, you know, you've set your whole life out on being this professional player and kind of making a career that you want to have, say, your own fans or own supporters of the club telling you that you're not good enough to be doing it. So, of course, it does hinder you. And then there's a flip side of that where people say, blow smoke up your ass, and you kind of have everyone saying, you know, he's going to be the next kind of like Alan Smith for Leeds and stuff like that. So it gives you a big like kind of pressure on your shoulders. But, you know, it comes with the career, I guess. There's, you know, footballers are very, very high profile people, where you've got thousands and thousands and in some cases millions of people kind of tracking what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, of course it impacts you, and I think it forever will, but I think players nowadays just learn how to cope with it a lot more, and it's kind of more of a normality for players now.
Part of the game now, isn't it? It's
yeah, completely.
When you're in training for the under 20, or when you're playing for the under 23s, Bielsa likes to play players returning from injury. Like last season, we had a lot of Bamford and Brown and Berardi playing for the under 23s when they returned from the setbacks. Does having these experienced first team players help the squad, and did anyone help you in particular?
Completely. I mean, when the players are coming back from, say, injury or just not having minutes from the first team, the gaffer plays them down in the 23s. You know, they're very professional. The first team lads are very professional people. So even when they come into the 23s, they treat it like a normal game. I remember one game specifically was we had Barnsley away for the 23s, and it was Luke Ayling playing for us at the time. And you would have thought, if you were looking at him, that he was about to play in the playoff final or something. The way he prepared for the game, the way he treated the game. I mean, the pitch was absolutely horrendous. The pitch was like playing on the straight. It was disgusting, and yet he kind of just tackled it head on, saying like, "This is the position I'm in. You know, if I don't do this right, I'm not going to do it right." Say at Ellen Road. So yeah, I think Luke Ayling especially is kind of a big role model for a lot of the lads. He takes everything professionally, like absolutely everything from, say, like diet and social media to kind of football performances. So yeah, he was a major help when he came down to the 23s and played a few games with us, because it gave us kind of that lift to just kind of think like, if we're sat here playing with him now and he can go play at Ellen Road week in, week out for the first team, then like, why can't we? So yeah, it does give you that big lift and kind of that big inspiration to kind of really kick on.
On a similar topic, who do you think is your best friend at the club?
Best friend at the club. It's a difficult one, that really, because at the club, everyone's kind of, over the last, say, year or so, basically since Marcelo came in, he's kind of molded everyone into more of a family than just like a club. You see it this season, even with Ben White coming in. When Ben White came in, the lads took him in instantly, and they do it with practically nearly everyone that comes into the club. So when people first come into the club, it's like you feel like you've been there years, and that you're best mates with everyone. They'll kind of sit there and treat you like a mate. You sit there and you go out for coffees with people, like in your spare time and things like that. But also on the flip side of that, if you're out of line in anything, they'll get you told and they'll put you in your place and kind of put you right, which you need to have at a club like that, and you need to have in this kind of industry. So yeah, I wouldn't say I've really got a specific kind of best friend at the club. I've just got I've got a teammate. I've got a team full of best mates, which is unbelievable to have, and I think it helps our performances a hell of a lot.
How did you celebrate becoming champions?
So yeah, a lot of Leeds fans seen on my social media that I got it put into my tattoo that I got, which, to be fair, a lot of Leeds fans took very well. They loved me for it, but I think kind of had to be done from a personal perspective, because obviously I've been a lifelong fan as well as a player now. So yeah, it was good, but there was a few messy nights. Definitely a few messy nights. For a couple, a lot of alcohol was involved. As you could probably see on a lot of the boys' social medias.
Mateus Click.
Clicky being one of them. Clicky had a very good celebration. But yeah, so we had a couple nights at Ellen Road. We had the big bus ceremony with all the fans, which was just, incredible. Really, really incredible. Just to see the amount turning out to come kind of support what the boys have done all season was great. But so I think a few of us have only just recovered from the celebrations. There was a lot of hangovers that for quite a long time.
The 16s are littered with people. There's flares, fireworks, all sorts, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I've got a little quick fire round for you.
All right.
Lift off. Quite easy. You just say what you fancy the most.
Yep.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Good lad. PS4 or Xbox?
PS4.
Good lad. Ballon d'Or or World Cup?
World Cup.
2 assists or 1 goal?
1 goal.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Toilet paper, bunch or fold?
Fold.
Oh, whatever. Coke or Pepsi?
Coke.
And finally, Adidas or Nike?
Nike.
Right. Nice and easy. See, that wasn't too hard.
The important question, how good was Harvey in net?
Come on.
Well, we all used to have quite a little joke with Harvey, bless him. I must say he was a great keeper. He pulled us out the bag quite a few times. But I do remember when I was at Knaresborough Celtic, we had a great little rivalry with Panel Sports, at which I was playing centre half that game for Knaresborough Celtic, and Harvey was in net for Panel Sports. And during that game, I've picked up the ball from centre half. It's absolutely torrential rain here. He knows what's coming, that's why he's hanging his head. But he knows this one. And from about 10 yards inside my own half, I've just absolutely whacked it, and it's hit a puddle in front of him, and it's gone straight through his legs, bless him. So from centre half, I've bagged within my own half against Harvey, and he's had an absolute stinker.
That's hardly much.
But no, I must say he was a great keeper, but yeah, he used to be a little chunky monkey, did Harvey, before he lost a lot of the weight. And we used to tell him we'll put a tube of Smarties on each post so he'd dive more.
Was the fat lad
Stick the fat lad in net.
That's what it was. It was the same all the time. Well, I have you. Right, I think on one final question.
Yep.
Pretty straightforward. Career aspirations. Have you set yourself any kind of like goal targets, assist targets, trophies, appearances, anything you want to happen over the next 10, 15 years of your playing time?
I've always kind of set myself very high targets, kind of all the way through my career. But I think the only thing I could possibly set myself is to just get to the highest possible level that I'm capable of. Whether that's be playing in the Premier League or playing Sunday League football for the rest of my life. It could be either, and I've played 2 championship games now. I've made my England under-19s debut. Of course, I want to make a Premier League appearance. I'd love to make a senior national appearance and a senior national goal. No matter what league, I do want to win a promotion medal or a championship medal for the Premier League. I do want to win a Premier League kind of medal or trophy. But I mean, my kind of own aspiration has always been to just get to the highest level possible that I can achieve. Because then, if a lot of people set themselves kind of specific targets saying they want to play in the World Cup and blah, 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 blah. But I think if you're to do that, you're setting a lot of pressure on yourself. So for me, it's just to be the best possible player that I can be.
Well, I think that rounds it all up. Tom, unless you've got anything else to ask, we all...
I think that's good. Yep.
You know what, mate? That was fantastic. It was a good laugh, that. Thank you very much for coming on. This has been the Panenka podcast. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.